What happens when a person you lived your entire life building was only a small part of your identity or not part of your story at all? Today's guest is an expert on rebranding yourself and discovering what many live a whole life and never realize. She's an author, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Blue Hat Publishing. Don't forget that name. And WellTold Studios. Also, she's a Renaissance woman and the creator of Joy's World, a resource that helps bilingual children and their families thrive in their environment. Please welcome Jodi Cowles to the flagship. Excuse me. I know my show. Thank you for joining the compliments of you, Jodi. Good to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much. This is the first time I've been on a live stream, so I'll try to make it entertaining.
You're gonna be fine. No problem there. You got an incredible story, and you're doing great things for others. So I'm excited about the combo. You've done something that most of us only dream about. You live more than half of your adult life in 7 different countries. Someone said you're trying to just do that on vacation, not even live there. So tell us what you think your perspective is from living in different countries. I know that we go into that with a lot of assumptions about what we think life is like, culture's like. I'm from New York originally. Before I moved down here to South Carolina, everybody that I was around, I lived with, family and such, thought South Carolina had hillbillies in it, straw hats with a piece of wheat in their mouth, riding on horses in the 90s. That's what they thought. So when you went to different countries, what were your assumptions about it? What did you learn about yourself and other cultures?
Well, that's a great intro for it because very similar. I think the number one thing I learned was that people are people, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what, I mean, there are cultural differences for sure. And some of them are really shocking and some of them are mild. But if you live long enough with another culture, they start to grate on you just because we're used to being with people who are like us. But I think people are people, and you find that out the longer you live in a different subculture, whether it's, New York to South Carolina or moving from Boise, Idaho to like a Muslim majority country, which in my age bracket growing up, we had some very strong media around Muslims, for instance.
Yeah,
so, I mean, just like we seem to like to put people in boxes and then identify who they are. And man, I think no matter what culture you go into, no matter what neighborhood you move into, you'll find people who are warm and welcoming, and you'll find people who are big jerks. It doesn't matter where, but the more you get out of your microculture, wherever it is that you're comfortable, and go across the street or across the state or across the world, I think your eyes get wider and your worldview gets a little bit wider, and you find out a lot of things you can be grateful for about, your home culture that maybe you didn't know how the other parts of the world lived. You become less critical, I think, of your own culture and of other people. So I'm so grateful for the years that I spent outside, what I would consider my heart little subculture.
Oh, absolutely. They say the grass is always greener, right?
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, until you get there, it's like, oh, I guess I was kind of wrong. You were. I think you're going to be probably the best person to answer this question. Hopefully, you mind being a little transparent. I realized in my latter years that a lot of things I didn't quite like about myself. And they've been around for a while. In your scenario, traveling to these new places, getting immersed in different culture, was there one thing you said, "Ooh, Jodi, I don't like that part of you"? Did you discover something like that?
Just one.
If you want to give me 3, I'll take it, but 7 is too much.
Transparency is my favorite thing. Like, let's have a real conversation. So I don't mind that at all. I'm really judgmental. I have always hated that about myself. Even just meeting somebody, I have 3 thoughts about them before we have a conversation, you know? And
Goodness. Okay.
it's a personality tick that I have never liked. And I think that that was just squashed living overseas, just squashed. I mean, it's still there. It still has a little heartbeat, but I think meeting so many people that were unlike me and were unlike my first impressions of them really really helped clear some of that up and helped me be a more just take people as they are and look for the good and look for the bridges that we have together rather than looking for, you know, what to argue over.
I like that. I like that. I know everybody can't. No, you may say they can, but a lot of people can't go to other countries and live for extended amount of times. It's not their situation, it's not their life, may not even be their desire. Can you give the people who are watching, listening, or who will on replay a hard truth because they can't go to other countries, they can't live the way you did? Can you give them a hard truth about perhaps they're judgmental? Perhaps they kind of had that those preconceived notions about people before they get to know them. Speak to them straight. What would you say is something you need to deal with or a question you need to ask yourself? Help line everybody up. They can't all live in different countries like you did. Help them out today. What would you say briefly?
I would say go across town and go get lunch somewhere you've never gone before and try to strike up a conversation. Go somewhere go to a part of town you normally avoid for whatever reason. You know, it doesn't, I mean, you know, don't put yourself in danger. But go somewhere where you don't feel comfortable, because we've been home from Turkey for 4 years, and everybody that we talk to talks about how divisive our culture is right now, how we're just yelling at each other from our different, you know, we get into our little camps and then we hurl mean things at each other. Just cross the street, cross the town. You do not need to go overseas. Just take a 15-minute walk outside of where you normally hang out and get into conversation with someone who looks different than you, whose lifestyle is a little bit different. I bet you'll find some common ground if you're looking for it.
I love that. I love that. I know you had some funny stories of things that happened to you when you were in other countries. I heard something about a marriage proposal. I'm like, did the person that proposed to you have like 7 other wives? I mean, what's going on? What's happening here?
That is what happened. I worked for an international aid organization for a number of years before I got married. And I got several proposals. One of them, I was in the desert in Senegal. I did video for our company, and we were in the middle of a little tent village, and the third wife of an 80-year-old stroke victim asked me to be the 4th wife, and that was the craziest marriage proposal I ever got. I said thank you so much, and I declined.
Was it because of his age or his health or other stuff?
Irreconcilable differences in lifestyle, I think.
Copy that. Wow, that is crazy. That's crazy. Coming from where, my hometown is New York. I talk about it a lot because I learned so much about life in that place. It's definitely still a melting pot. I still interview folks who come from different countries and they go there and they migrate there and they have to learn, language and those kind of things. What can you kind of wax eloquent about, the challenges of understanding other languages and how you see that as connected to the human condition? If you can do that, can you put those two things together?
Well, I can. I think it's another, relating back to your earlier question about problems in my own self and my personality. I think pride is an issue in every human being, and nothing just obliterates your pride like learning another language. It's just,
Mhm.
it's so hard and it's so humiliating when you just make mistake after mistake. When I was learning Spanish, I was living in Spain and I had a 3-year-old Spaniard make fun of me, a little 3-year-old girl, and I was mortified. So
Man, that's a
I think
lot.
learning a language is so good for us. It's good for our pride. It's good for our brain. It's good for just helping you understand how other people communicate. I mean, not just, it's because it's not just translation. It's like in Spanish, what I learned in Spain, we blame, like it's part of our English language is who is responsible for this. And in Spanish, that I remember one really interesting lesson was the pencil falls to the floor, not I dropped the pencil. Like even the way the language is
Yeah.
formed and spoken, there's less guilt than less pointing out blame as we have in English. So I think even the process of learning a language opens you up to how other people live and makes you more open-minded.
I have a question. I was trying to learn Spanish fully for like 40 years now. I think I gave up. But as creator of Joy's World, kind of tell us the crux of what you do for these families. What are you doing there?
I'm trying to help parents keep heritage languages alive. So my daughter was born in Turkey. We adopted her, and it was a long, drawn
Wow.
out, difficult process. So she didn't leave Turkey until she was almost 4 years old. We moved back to the States, and she's not going to remember Turkey. That's
Mm.
because of her age. That's a fact of her life. And so I created the first book. I wrote the first book, Joy's World, to help her remember when she gets older. And it's a bilingual English Turkish. And I got a Turkish illustrator and I sent her pictures of our neighborhood. And there's people we know. And I just did it. I did it to help her remember, to kind of introduce American children to Turkey, because Turkey is beautiful and it has, people always think, let's go to France, let's go to England, but there's other beautiful countries in the world. Anyway, but
Yeah.
once I did that, I realized there were a lot of parents who are struggling, there's a lot of migration in our world now, and there are parents who are struggling to help their children keep a heritage language. So I've created some more books and some digital like weekly printouts, just to give parents who are busy and stressed and feel guilty about their kids losing their original language, to help them,
Mm.
have something to do every day with their kid to try to keep their bilingualism alive.
Like that. With the time that we have left, I know this could be a heavy task, but you're doing work to help people, I guess, enhance and flesh out and bring their stories to life. You're helping people use storytelling as a powerful tool. Can you tell us in a nutshell how you're doing that with Blue Hat and WellTold? Kind of how the vision behind that and what you are trying to accomplish, who you're speaking to. Maybe perhaps somebody could be ideal for you that's listening to the show or will listen to it later on replay. Okay.
Well, I think story is about the most important thing. Telling our story, telling it well, and having somebody listen. So what we do, Blue Hat Publishing, we are 3 authors who created an independent publishing company that we wished we could have had. And we take mostly first-time authors and we walk them all the way through the process, and they get a beautiful book at the end, their passion project, and they get to hold it in their hands. And it is so fun because publishing right now is the Wild West. Traditional publishing is going crazy, and self-publishing you can do, but it's so complicated and difficult to get a beautiful professional product. So we're just
Indeed.
coming into that space and helping. And then WellTold grew out of that with another friend of mine who runs a different publishing company. We were just complaining about all the scams that our authors are falling victim to, because there's so many people. There's so many people taking advantage of the first-time authors' enthusiasm and desire to get their book out there. And they don't know what moves the needle or doesn't. They don't know if this, proposal that they get from somebody is really valid, or if it's just, a bunch of nothing. I think there's a lot of people taking advantage of this desire that we all have to tell our story. So WellTold is really simple, transparent. Here's some things that we know move the needle when you're trying to increase your audience. So it's really a wide spectrum of trying to help people tell their stories, tell them well, and expand the amount of people who know about them.
I love it. Final segment, we normally do what I call a mirror check segment of the show, where I have you speak to the people. You usually get pretty deep and intensive, but do your best with it. If we have somebody that's watching and listening today that is at a place in their life where they feel as though there's no need for them to change anything, they feel like they've gotten along fine all these years doing what they've been doing. I know you're a nice person. You never want to combat them and come at them. I'm asking you to combat them today. I'm asking you to kind of share something that's going to be a needle moving idea or mindset in a snippet of time. How would you speak to somebody who maybe is a new friend of yours or a relative who had that kind of mindset about or beliefs, cultures, and experience? What would you say to them to get them to stop and think perhaps there's a better route? What would you say to them?
I would say if you would take an hour of silent time and put your TV away and your phone away and go sit under a tree and think about your life, you would be amazed at what thoughts came to mind. And there are so many areas where we can experience more joy in our lives, but we're all prone to being satisfied with enough. It's fine. It's fine. But if you take the time to look at your life, to think in quiet and thoughtfully, I think you can find new levels of joy. You can find new levels of healing. One of the hardest things I ever did last year was spend a year trying to write my memoir because my family and friends were badgering me about it. And it was, I woke up at 5 every morning and I wrote for an hour and I cried almost every day, but it was one of the most beautiful things I have done. I don't think everybody needs to do that, but I am so, looking back on my life, I am so grateful. And I think I shed some grief just by thinking it through. And I think we all have that. We all have grief weighing us down because of the kind of world we live in. And you can be more joyful. You just need to pause the busy life for a minute and try to think about it. Think about the people who shaped you for the good and the bad, and just think it through and let some things go. You'll be lighter, you'll be happier. You can see things that you couldn't see before.
I love it. Very profound. Thanks for being here, Jodi, and sharing your story. I'm sure somebody's going to hear this or watch this and they going to look at life a little bit differently. Thanks for your perspective. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. If this episode resonates with you, share it with somebody who loves travel, who values meaningful conversations, or who wants to just better understand people, cultures, or themselves. You can find Jodi at jodicowles.com. The link's in the comments section, also in the show notes and episode description. And of course, subscribe to the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast on YouTube. We love your help there, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find us. And don't forget, the difference between who you are and who you could be is found in what you do every single day. That's Jodi Cowles. I'm Mr. You. This is the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast. Thank you for joining the flight today. Have a fantastic day.